Hey guys, welcome back to Spin Crochet Repeat, RCC. The RCC stands for Robin's Crochet Creations, which is where you can find me on Facebook and Instagram. And you can find me at Spin Crochet Repeat here on Rumble, YouTube, and on Etsy. So this is the next installment in the U to Yarn Teeswater series. This is some of the Teeswater that we combed out. We used the pet brushes to flick the ends and open up those curls, and then we used the comb to align all the fibers and to straighten it all out so that it is what you see here now. Going to be spinning. I've already spun some of it up here, and this is a total of about 4 ounces, including this bundle, not including that puppy hair. And so we're going to spin that up and get it plied, and we'll see what it looks like. Now there are some short bits in this, and it makes it a lot easier to pull them out once you've kind of got them spun up and trapped. It helps to separate them from the other fibers some. Now I don't remember exactly how many hot water scours I did with this wool. I'll link the washing video and the combing video in the description of this video. So if you want to go back and see all of it, it'll be easily accessible. But I say that because it has, with the filming of the washing and combing and then the filming of this, there's actually a good bit of time in between. I've just been busy with many other things, and I did not realize there was so much lanolin left in this wool. It is drafting fairly easily through most of it, but there are some spots that will get rather difficult because they're sticking together. So I would say when you're processing raw wool, don't do like I did and try to include every tiny little bit of wool, because you're going to end up with all those short bits that makes it difficult. And also make sure you're getting all the lanolin out, unless you want to do what's called spinning in the grease. Some people prefer that because it can help with waterproofing for outer garments, mittens. The history of that tells of a lot of northern European islands where they did a lot of fishing. It would be cold. They would either use the lanolin already in the fleece, or they would lanolize it, where they would wash all of it out and then add in they would add the lanolin back in so that it would become waterproof. I will probably do, because I am not a Northern European fisherman, and I do not need waterproof yarn. I will probably, once this is spun up, give it another hot water bath with a little bit of dish soap, because my fear, as it is right here, it's soft. You can see that there's a good bit of a halo on it, but I feel like it could be softer. It's pushing the bounds of being ropey, which can happen with some long wools, but I feel like if I was able, I want to try to get some of the lanolin out and see if that makes a difference. So I'll make sure to include that in this process, and that way we can all learn about it together. These I'll go through and pick out whenever I have this on the nitty knotty. Because I know I likely zoned out while spinning and did not get all of them. Alright, now that I've finished this little handful, just nearly finished it, there's also a little piece of vegetable matter. Those get trapped and are easy to pick out too. Some of it falls out on its own as it spins, but now that I've got this part finished up, I'm going to add in last bundle, and I'll come back and film the ply. Okay, so earlier I'd said this was 4 ounces. I misspoke. This is actually 100 grams. This was 100 grams until, after pulling out all those little short bits, lost a total of 2 grams, which might not sound like much, but it is actually quite a bit. So that's a pretty good handful right there. So, so this is now 98 grams, and I'm going to ply it. Now, I spun it in what's called Z-twist, or clockwise. So I'm going to ply it counterclockwise, or S-twist. So I used my yarn winder to make a cinder pull ball, and so I'm using the strand that comes from the outside and from the inside to run those two strands together. I'm going to feed my leader through and hope my cat doesn't knock the camera over, and get this going back in the other direction. Now, just as when I would begin spinning a single, I'm going to put the two ends together, and I'm going to put them through the loop, and I'm going to hold this while I get some twist built up in my leader, and I'm going to let that twist enter in there, and that's going to hold it still for me. I'm hoping that I will not have as much trouble with the plying as I did with the spinning because of all that extra lanolin that's in there. So we will just have to see how this goes. And it's coming out of the leader loop. Well, that's not going to do any good. Alright, let me try again. I've yet to figure out the best way to contain the ball while plying from a center pull ball. So if you are a spinner and you have any tips, I would appreciate those. I want to make sure that there's not any curlicues where it has plied on itself as we go. And I just kind of let this twist build up on it. I'm going to stop this here. Give a quick show of what it looks like. That is 2-ply, so it's still pretty thin. I figure it's going to be somewhere around a sport weight. I'm going to continue on until I get a little further up the bobbin, and then I'll show you guys a little trick that might not seem like a big deal, but I know it's been a big help to me, and somebody much smarter than me has probably figured it out long before I did, and that's okay too. But this is a Country Craftsman spinning wheel. I have another video where I tell a little bit about it, and I show kind of how I do routine maintenance on it, how the whole thing is put together. And, but the bobbins are not very big. I believe they're made to hold about 2 ounces. I have pushed the limits and gotten 4 ounces on there before, but that came with its own set of aggravations, and I've been trying to figure out how can I get more on there without creating a mess. And so I'm going to stop here, wind this around, kind of hold my place. And this is Let me make sure it's on camera. This is nothing more than a piece of cardboard. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to ease this yarn back up. I didn't get it quite as tight as it should be, but with the yarn already on there, I fit that around the bobbin and let that yarn kind of hold it in place. What I'll do is I'll go ahead and jump to the furthest peg or hook, and that way it will start winding up right against that and it will help hold it. This allows me to build up, as long as it doesn't get hooked like it is now, it allows me to build up more of the yarn to this end further than I normally would. Probably about a good inch further, maybe 3/4 of an inch than I would normally be able to, which helps get more on the bobbin and not have to be changing out bobbins. You can see that if you are going to cut one of these for yourself, it needs to be cut to where it can still leave room for the flyer to go around, otherwise it's not going to work. I thought about taping this, but then I would have to be untaping it all the time, so I'm still playing around with that idea, because otherwise I wouldn't be able to get it on and off the bobbin. So again, if you have any tips or tricks similar that you have found useful, please feel free to leave them in the comments or message me directly if you like. I believe we can all learn and grow from one another, because none of us knows everything. I do think I am eventually going to have to tape this, because it does keep getting behind. And I know it looks like I'm taking a lot of time to mess with that and make sure that it's where it should be. I guarantee you the time I've took to do that so far in the last few minutes is much less than the amount of time it took me to untangle yarn from around the flyer shaft, and that was a pain in the neck. Then you have to unscrew the whirl, take the flyer apart, take the drive band off, and then reverse it and put it all back on after you get the mess cleaned up. So little aggravations are much better than big aggravations. I noticed, or I made note earlier in the video, that I was afraid this would begin to feel ropey. And I have to say that so far with plying it, it is actually much softer, which plying in the opposite direction does undo a little bit of the twist that you originally put in it. But because you're plying it, it's forcing those two strands to push against one another so they hold each other in place. If you were to spin them in the same direction again, they would kind of just continue to wrap up within themselves and never really join together completely. And if you tried to knit or crochet with them, it would cause issues with your hook or needle going through. You might could weave with it, but it would only be good for the, I think it would only be good for the weft, because if you're trying to use strands that are coming apart from one another for the warp, then that could really mess with your weaving, especially if you're doing patterns and you were just a strand off. So I'm going to finish plying this, I will then wrap this off of the bobbin and around my nitty knotty, and I'll count my yardage. And then I'm going to wait and see how soft it is in skein form before I decide if I'm going to give it another wash. So I will pick up the video after I have finished plying, and when I've got it in skein form, I'll let you know about how many yards, what the weight of the yarn is. And I'm not talking weight as in grams or ounces, I'm talking weight as in the diameter, or the, I don't really know if it'd be diameter. I mean, it's the size of the thread. It's determined by something called wraps per inch. It's how many times I can wrap this strand of yarn around a 1-inch ruler. And I have a handy little fiber sprout tool that my sister got me for Christmas that I will use to do that. So I'll pick up then, and we'll talk a little bit more about the yarn I have made. Alright, so here we are. Got it all spun up and plied into 2-ply. It's rather squishy. It is not as coarse as I thought it would be. It's quite soft. So I will be honest, it was a little bit of a booger to ply from that center pull ball. So I believe if when I do, I have some more of this. When I do some more, I think what I will try to do is just spin up 2 bobbinfuls and ply them together that way. Because it was wrapping up on itself inside of the ball. The little bits, what we call a halo, they were grabbing a hold of each other and sticking together. And so I'll try it that way next time and see if it turns out any different. I'm going to turn this flash on real quick and let y'all see just how shiny this is. I mean, it's got a beautiful luster. It's very pearlescent, and it's really beautiful. It's spun up to I would call it a rustic spin, and as you can see, there's some places that spun up a little finer, some a little bit thicker. So, according to this fiber sprite, some places landed at about a 22 wraps per inch, and then some places were just nearly a 14. So maybe like a 15 or 16, kind of in between this 18 and 14 here. That would put it at about between a fingering weight and a sport weight. So when I list this on Etsy, I'm going to make sure to make note of that. And ended up with right at 200 yards from 97 grams. Because as I wrapped it around the nitty knotty, as I said, I continued to pull out those little fluffy bits that were not, that were short bits and had not really contributed to the yarn itself. So there we have it. This will be the final installment of the You to Yarn Teeswater series. as I don't plan on dyeing this. I plan on listing it in my Etsy shop, which is Spin Crochet Repeat, RCC. I have a sweater pattern on there. I have some handmade stitch markers on there, and then I'll have this as well as some other breeds coming soon, hopefully. So at your time of viewing this, I'm not sure exactly what will be in that shop, as inventory could change, and but I just encourage you to check it out, see what you might like. Check me out on Facebook at Robin's Crocheted Creations, also on Instagram at that same name, Robin's Crocheted Creations. And if you would like something crocheted, or if you want to see if I am in the process of spinning up something that you believe you would like first dibs at, let me know and we'll see what we can do for you. And until then, thanks very much for watching. I hope you have subscribed, and if you have not, please do that. Please turn on notifications, and please share this with somebody that might enjoy it. Thank you so much. See you next time.